Hey, and welcome to today's interview with Achim Brandenburg, aka Prosumer. Achim is not only a DJ, producer, music programmer, and sound designer. He also provides supports to others by working with a mix of generative coaching and somatic tools in combination with sound. His trainings include hypnotherapy, mediation, sound therapy, psychotraumatology, and generative coaching. Since the mid-90s, he has been DJing around the world and was a resident DJ at legendary Panorama Bar at Berghain in Berlin for many years. In our conversation today, we will talk about his work in both of these fields, how music supports healing, what helped him personally on his journey, and his advice to artists looking for improving their mental health. Yeah, nice, Achim. Welcome to this interview today where we will talk about mental health for artists.
Great. I look
And
forward to this.
awesome. And yeah, you're an artist and a mental health expert because you transitioned or added knowledge about therapy to your foundation as an artist. And today you also work as a therapist. Can you tell us how this happened, how you made this journey?
Um, I think it's probably not the most uncommon story on how to become an artist. That before all the skills that you at one point acquired in your life turn into the artist self. A lot of it is acquired through a very introvert time. So a lot of DJ colleagues I spoke to, they will have a similar story like me, being the music nerd, being the one who's locked away in the bedroom, listening to music all the time. And for me, music was always a big escape. So I was very depressed as a teenager, probably already starting as a child, and music was always the safe space, the sanity space. So in a way, yeah, through my own struggles there, I have always been connected with the subject, or no, let's say there was the base for an interest there. And I at one point realized, okay, I need a balance to the nightlife. There is a part of me that is not represented there. There's a part of me that needs something else. And so I first started training as a mediator back in Berlin a long time ago. Oh God, I don't know how many years. Let's say something like 15 years. With Rita Wawczynek, which you know as well. And that's the first step in this direction. And I just kept doing stuff. So there were always impulses coming from Rita. So I remember that the solution-focused approach was something which sounded so exciting and attractive. So that led me to hypnotherapy. At one point, then realizing, okay, well, I have all this knowledge and feeling for music and sound. Uh, and so sound therapy was just a logical addition to that. And different coaching techniques. doing different workshops, adding and adding more to my toolkit, and getting to a place where I say, oh yeah, I have a bit of a range there of different approaches, and know how to tie them together.
Mm-hmm.
That was long.
Awesome. And so I understood that the motivation to do this, at least at the beginning, was to learn more about yourself or to deal with things for yourself in a better way. Is this right?
Yeah. So obviously self support,
Yeah.
but also just a balance as well.
Oh. And then I guess at one point you realize, okay, I have so many tools, maybe I can support others with that and not just myself. Or
Uh,
how did it happen that you started to work with people and that you supported them?
um, it, I mean, it started quite naturally. So especially the full trainings that I did, stuff. It started happening basically through the case studies that you do.
Hmm?
Uh, then you get into working with people, and they recommend you, and then you start working with more people. And I have to say, I find it really rewarding as well. So there's days when, uh, of course, I'm aware that I have spent a lot of time working, but at the end of the day, I will feel energized because um, I personally think there's little more beautiful in life than people connecting to their resource, where you have the feeling, in German you would say jetzt flutscht's wieder, where things return to a flow, and you just see kind of a veil being lifted. Um, the individual being shining in their brightest light. I think that's so amazing to see in people being connected to themselves, people being in their energy, and yeah, being witness to that is amazing. So
Yeah, I agree.
yeah. Yeah, you will know what I'm talking about, and you will know how it is very rewarding, and when you see that happening, obviously you start to learn. Okay, this is what humans are capable of. It helps me immensely to know we all hold that.
Yeah.
It gives me great confidence that um, everyone can get there. And
Yeah, I think this part is really important, that everybody can get there. And one of my mentors, he's called Bill Pettit, Dr. Bill Pettit, has a saying, and he says, never broken, nothing lacking.
yeah,
No human is never broken, and no human being is lacking of internal resources to get back to this home state of innate mental and emotional and physical well-being.
yeah, yeah,
I think this is really strong because so I recently found a video about mental health on SBTV, a YouTube channel, and it was created by Jamal Edwards. And something struck me because he was also like doing short interviews, or in the videos you see short interviews with other musicians. And a few of them said that they were afraid that they were like broken or like damaged.
yeah.
And I think just this knowing that nobody can be damaged is so profoundly changing lives.
Yeah, I noticed immediately what was I work with a lot with body awareness, so I'm quite attuned to that. So I noticed what was happening in my body when you were saying home state. And yeah, I think that is so essential that it is returning to a place of home, a returning to yourself. So I think there's so much out there, personal development, which will give people the idea that it's looking for something external, creating something, creating the new self. And I think, yeah, what you were referring to, it is this, yes, we are perfect, we are whole, we are unbroken, and it's just about allowing ourselves to return to
Yeah,
that.
yeah, absolutely. Like we don't have to put the good into ourselves; it's already there.
Yeah.
Yes. And I definitely agree. Like witnessing this is super rewarding, and it has some similarities to moments on the dance floor when everybody is like happy and when the energy is like rising and it's exploding. I think it's, for me, it's very similar.
Yeah.
Do you agree on that?
Yeah, and also about the idea of a deeply fulfilling feeling on the dance floor
Yeah.
can be achieved if you just build up, and everything is happy up here. But there needs to be a bit of heartache, and if you know a bit about music, you know what it does to us and how we respond emotionally to it. So it needs the range of emotions. It needs the acknowledgement of the quieter tones. We need the breaks. We need the breakdowns. We need. I mean, if you look at disco, I think one part of the success of disco is so many times when you split the music from the lyrics, you will have these uh, really deep songs about uh, dark experiences, about
Mhm.
feeling lonely and feeling isolated and being hurt, and that being put to a jolly tune. And I think, yeah, it's a lot about embracing the full journey, the full spectrum, and not just looking for the highs, but yeah, embracing all of it.
Yeah. Embracing the whole cycle, so to speak. Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know much about your story. How did it all come together for you?
um, how did it all come together for me? Well, I've always been doing music. When I was a child, it was like playing piano, and then later on, it was playing electric guitar in like punk and metal bands as a teenager. And then I met a guy in England when I was on a language exchange, and he was living in Frankfurt back at this time, and we got along really well. And he invited me to Frankfurt, and I visited him in his city, and we went to a club called U60 311, U60 311, and that was my first techno experience when I was 16, and I needed a fake ID or like an ID from a friend to get in. And in that night, I fell in love with electronic music or with clubbing and this amazing energy exchange between a DJ and a crowd. And
Do you remember who was DJing?
DJ Rush.
Okay, great.
I just was. looking on YouTube for some videos, and I found some videos from this very night on YouTube. So it was really hard techno. And then I got my first turntables, and I started to DJ on parties we organized with some friends, or on some like abi parties, so like from like school parties. And I recently thought about this, and the only picture of something that I would like to do in the future when I was like young was like doing music on a stage. As a teenager, it was guitar and developed into electronic things. And after my studies, I moved to Zurich. After school, I moved to Zurich for my studies. And back then, I didn't take the time to really think about what I want to study or how I want to do it. And I just started with like economics, and that progressed into communication and philosophy. And I knew I wanted to do music, but I didn't know how. And at the beginning, it was also very difficult to connect to people in Zurich, or to connect to people who are in the electronic music world. And I think I also didn't give myself the permission to really do music. I always thought I have to do something different. And when I was 22, I had a very severe car accident where I almost died. That's where I have this scar from. And this changed a lot. Or you could say it changed everything. And I have a very clear memory on waking up in the intensive care unit and feeling that I want to share something of this life opportunity, of this second life opportunity, with other people. But back then I didn't know how.
Yeah.
And to make it short, after my studies, I moved to Berlin. I always wanted to go there since the first time I visited a friend and explored the clubs here, and went to Berghain and everything. And after the studies, the timing was right, and I moved here. And my mission was to find out how I make a living and how I organize everything, how I do it. And I got to some really frustrating places because I wanted to make progress faster. I wanted to make music faster or release my music. So I was looking for like guidance, or for somebody who could show me some things. And I met a guy called Nicolas Bugayev, and he was coaching producers and supported them in their productions. And I worked with him really closely for a long time. And I had this epiphany where I realized, oh, coaching is really great. It's like helping me more than everything before. Also more than studying sound engineering in Switzerland. And I think at one day, three things came together. This experience, remembering this wish that I want to help other people with their things, and having some basic tools from spending time learning NLP and hypnosis. So I thought I could give it a try and start to support other people in music production, because that was, I think, the field I had the biggest experience in at this time. And word spread around, and all of a sudden people started to ask me for coaching, not in music, but more in personal topics. And I said like, hey, George, we always have really great conversations, and I heard you do coaching. Can we do a session like this? And from this, it picked up and developed. And yeah, at one point I realized that I enjoy this maybe even more than music, or like equally. And now I do both. I still produce a lot. I'm still performing when it's possible, and I'm coaching every day, I would say, almost every day. And now I'm on the point where I start a master degree in psychology to learn more and to be even more capable of supporting people. And I'm constantly doing workshops and things to get better in what I do. And I think it was very similar that at the beginning I started to learn these things like NLP and hypnosis to support myself and to find answers to questions that I couldn't answer back then. And then it developed into giving value to others, which is for me nowadays the biggest motivation of all. Yeah. And I definitely see so many similarities between music and coaching and therapy.
Yep.
That's also one reason why I start to learn more about like sound healing or like sound music therapy, which you already are an expert in. Yeah, that's how it got together for me. And I consider myself really lucky to have met the right people in the right moments, because I definitely had phases, I would say, where I struggled with depression or like anxiety. For me, it was mainly when it came about, I think I was mainly worrying about the future and how I would do things and if things would work out. And when I started to really focus on producing music and being creative, I had to learn how to do that. Like at the beginning, I had a lot of anxiety and resistance. And from all the music producers I spoke to, I didn't meet one producer who hasn't had similar experiences. Because if somebody is listening to this and maybe didn't speak to others, just know that you're not alone with that.
I was just going to say, I think through all the work that I'm doing, I'm so grateful for the insight of how much we all share and how much insecurities we all hold. When you were speaking about not giving yourself the permission to follow something which was your passion, that's something I think so many people can relate to, but talk about it. If you talk to musicians and obviously in a situation of good connection and not superficial, you will hear so much about people suffering from imposter syndrome and all these feelings of, oh, what I'm doing is not good enough. And I think to acknowledge, okay, we all have that, is already such a relief. And I think it also might be able to help people to get a bit of a perspective of, oh, these doubts, that's not me. That's something bigger. That's something we all have. So me personally, it helps a lot to go, fuck it. It's not my own. It's something we all share, and I think that for me makes it less scary in a way.
It makes it less scary. Yeah, absolutely. It's like a cloud that has like maybe the shape of a lion, and when you really buy into it, you're afraid of it, and when you remember it's a cloud, it's like, okay, it's a cloud. And what advice would you give to an artist who is like struggling with mental well-being or mental health?
Um, the thing is, obviously, we all, in a way, know what to do in the current times. We know what drives success and all of that. And if you think about stuff like PR, public relation, I think you also should at least invest the same time or energy into self-relation. I think it is very important to spend time with yourself, and obviously we all know how. Uh, um, I'm lacking an English word. Verlockend. Tempting it can be that you just go with the fun energy of the nightlife and the weekend, and obviously that will only get you so far. I think it's to really look into who you are, and allow to be aware of the players that your system holds. So when I was talking earlier about um, passion for music, for me being connected to a time of isolation and more an introvert energy, and then compare that to the part of you that's a performer who will obviously step up during the weekend. I think it's important to allow them both to be parts of your player, and I can get how it might be super tempting to just want to push one part of who you are, because yeah, it works, it's fun, you get great feedback, but I think it's about the parts that we might not always want to look at, that we need to look at to be working as a full system. So as an example for what I mean, we all have these states that step up in certain situations, which are great for certain situations. So I'm thinking of a friend who is this gentle, soft-spoken, kind, and wise woman, and when she drives, she turns into an absolute monster. She is a great driver, but she's cursing, and there's aggression, and there is her voice changes, and it's a bit like that. This is a part of you that has a place and works great there, but you don't want to transfer it to other parts of your life. I wouldn't want to have dinner with her driver self, to put it like that, and yeah, to be aware of these parts in you, try to find a way of them communicating. I think that is really important, and I think the main things that help on that way is dedicating time for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It's important to say, yeah, that's me time. That's time where I look at myself, spend time to build up my resources, have maybe some kind of a spiritual practice, maybe have some exercises, have some rituals. Yeah, I think those are the essential parts. Being open to your full self, being exploring your full self, taking time for that. Yeah.
So making time to explore yourself and also to accept all parts of yourself.
Um,
Would you
I
say like that?
I would go further. I would say not only accept but love every part of you.
Hmm.
And
What,
I,
what's difference between accepting and loving for you?
Accept accepting is yeah, you're okay over there. I know you're there. I don't really like you, but you're okay over there. I'm aware of you, and I know you happen. That's accepting. Loving would be, oh, I appreciate this part of me. Um, because I understand where it comes from. I understand what it contributes. So yeah, being aware of the lovable, the worthy aspects of everything, and in the end, everything um, has developed as a reason in your system. Everything is a resource. Everything is there because it brought you something, and it might be something as simple as a survival technique as a kid, making sure you receive enough love, something like that might not always serve you as a grown up, might not always serve you in everyday life or relationships, but it's coming from a place where it was genuinely out there to save your ass. And then it's not, yeah, it's okay that you're here, but oh, great that you were there right now. I need to look at the relationship that we can have right now. I need to look at where you fit in. But at that time in my timeline, in my life, uh, thank you for that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand. It's about like also what's the word? Worshipping your part, the things you've done in the past, or like being in peace with them, or like having forgiveness for yourself. And I think forgiveness is like
Um,
a big part of loving, or like it's like something that cleans the scrapes in your glasses or in your windows.
I personally struggle with forgiveness.
Mm.
That's my personal thing. So for me, when people talk about radical love or radical self love, I think that's more where I'm at. It is yeah, every part has had a genuinely good origin,
Yeah,
and yeah, getting to love that.
yeah. So every part has a generally good origin and a good intention. Yeah, I agree on that. And what did help you to get to this point or to see things like that?
Let's not.
Probably many things, but maybe some things are coming to mind for you.
Uh, I mean, let's not kid ourselves. A big factor is growing older, and yes, I would be lying if I would pretend that's not a main factor, at least for me. And I mean, we can relate probably to this. It gets better that when you're not in the situation, when you have the feeling that it's going fast enough, that this is quite frustrating, and feeling impatient about things changing. So I think life experience is a main factor for me. I think essential was to learn to um, not experience life through my head, not approach life head first, but realizing, okay, there is other things than what I want up here. Or, a whole system that makes up what I perceive as me, and taking in the information from all of that.
Do you have any favorite ways how to support people, how to support your clients in order to get to this space where they fully love themselves?
I think a lot of it is going through experiencing things in the body. So it's not about uh, who I think I am. It's about what is coming up in my body. So if our brain is evolutionary taught to focus on certain things that benefit us evolutionary. So uh, basically, the brain, it's so much easier to lie to yourself or believe lies. It's beneficial to believe that the first assumption is true, and it's efficient and beneficial to simplify. If I go into the body, I can bypass that. I can look at different feelings. I can look at different situations in my life, and it doesn't even need a hypnotic induction for people to be able to recall situations in your body. It's we have a surprisingly good memory
Mhm.
about how we felt, and we can look at situations where we felt really great, where we experienced, okay, this is where I want to be in my life, but also situations where kind of the opposite was happening, and it's I think a super efficient way to gain awareness of the whole range of things. So if we look at negative experiences, and I ask someone, okay, if you go back to this memory and see what shows up in your body, there's so much information there. There will be uh, if you've not done this before, it will obviously I will start with people who have not worked in that way before, with simple examples, and then you can zoom in. But if you give yourself time, you can explore all these nuances of a situation where uh, it is often the things that might be scary, or might, where a taboo up here might step in. If it's in the body, it's there. You can't ignore it, and we have the tendency to be more curious about it. And I think curiosity is such an important thing. And I'm so pissed off at German for Neugier, the greed for novelty being such a negative word. It's not a greed for novelty, it's a leaning into, it's a gentle, explorative, it's curiosity, which I think a great feeling. So once you can apply curiosity to what's happening in your body, that can bypass your negative, fearful thoughts about the situation, and you can identify, okay, a part of me was making this experience, a part of me was making this experience, and you gain so much knowledge, you gain so much nuance about all different kind of situations, aspects of self, and it's all in this nuanced exploration that you can piece things back together in a different way, where you can identify the different aspects and players, and can regain a full image of something which only had small representatives in our brain before, that we often experience as triggers. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So what I understood is that you like to work with the body and the memories that are like stored in the body, because that bypasses our habitual thinkings or the habitual thoughts we have, and maybe also the thoughts that are not even ourselves, like thoughts about guilt or shame or all these things, and we can just curiously explore the body and work with this information.
Yeah. It adds a playful component to it. I mean, in a way, we all know what our issues are, and it's not that we have not thought about them. We are very, very used to hitting the same wall over and over again.
Yeah.
Maybe it is not the thinking about it that is allowing us to progress there. Maybe it is a dropping deeper, realizing, okay, it's not only my thoughts, it's other aspects of experience as well that make up the situation.
Yeah. I like the expression dropping deeper a lot. And for me personally, every time I drop out of my thinking, like my all day life thinking, I find all the answers. Or I see all the answers.
And again, we're back at music. I mean, what better way to drop out of your thinking up here than to go into the music? Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, definitely. Like listening music and also like playing music or like playing an instrument and getting into this flow.
Yep.
I just watched this new Disney film or Pixar film, Soul. Have you seen that? I think it's really, really beautiful. It's about a jazz musician, jazz piano player, and obviously he has a lot of moments where he drops into the music and where everything makes sense again, and he finds his answers.
I write that down.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. It's really, really, really nice, and a lot of metaphors for life and for music.
Yeah. Did what I said make sense to you? I see a bit
Yeah.
of.
the talk about going into the body. Yeah, a lot. As I said, I experience this every day, that when I drop out of my thinking, that everything comes together, or falls in its place. And I also did a few sessions with Rita, actually, about my car accident, and where we went into my body to bring back the memories of the last moments that I couldn't remember yet. And it was really powerful.
Yeah, I think traumatic experiences like that obviously are maybe an extreme to that, but yes, trauma is completely stored in the body, and to regain knowledge about a situation like that, that is, I assume that will have made quite a difference for you.
Yeah, definitely. And also just getting deeper into the understanding that this trauma, or this impact that caused the trauma, happened once, and is not happening now. And the only way to make it happen all the time is to think it all the time. And at the end, it's like dropping a pen, which is quite easy. You open a hand and you turn it around and it drops. And you can do the same thing on an emotional level, or on a mental level. And
you said that you enjoy dropping out of your mind. What are your favorite ways to do that?
that's a good question. What are my favorite ways to do that? I think, first of all, I think it's important to emphasize that we can do this all the time. We don't need external things to do that. I don't need a nice hut on the top of the mountain and be super zen-like in order to do that. And I think that's a big misconception, because I think a lot of, especially new age things, are telling us that we need to live in a certain way in order to do this. And I think that's not true.
You can't do it without the incense.
Exactly. And I love incense, and I love stuff, and it can support things, and it's nice. And if it gives me joy, there's nothing bad against it. But it's good to know that it's just built into our system. And I kind of designed my day in a way that I just do this on a habitual level. So, for example, in the morning when I wake up, and in the evening I go to sleep, I know, or science knows, that we kind of travel through the alpha wave state, where we are very open for internal pictures. And I use this to visualize things and to be grateful for things. And this combination always brings me into really nice energy. First, to be grateful for what is happening right now, and then also to visualize what I would like to experience, or where I would like to grow to, or what I would like to share. So using this is something I do every day. Meditation for sure, sports, yoga, playing instruments, playing piano or guitar. Something I haven't done for a while, because I was focusing so much on drum machines and synthesizers. And something that I really fell in love again, just experiencing the vibration of a string is so fascinating for me. And also mixing music, for example, is something I get into a really flow state all the time, and just enjoying this process. Then coaching and supporting other people is something I'm always dropping out of my head. And it's one of the nicest feelings for me when I drop out of my head, because I know in this moment the other person is doing the same thing, and we come into this lighthearted space where the magic happens, and where things are just falling together how they are supposed to fall together, or in the space they belong to. I love hypnosis. I love to receive hypnosis and to give hypnosis. I think that's one of the best ways to do that, or to experience this and to get into this space and learn how it feels like, and then you recognize it in your whole life. And also reading spiritual texts. There's one mystic and writer called Sydney Banks, and I love his books and his texts and also his videotapes, and that's also something I send every client of mine, because I know that it's somehow bringing us into this space and out of our thinking. And of course, I also have days where I'm caught in my thoughts for a few moments, or sometimes for a day or two. And what I witness is that this periods get shorter and shorter, and less and less in general. And when I reflect back, when I was a teenager, or when I was a student, so when I was let's say 10 years ago, these periods were like weeks. Yeah. But sometimes I would say even months. And I never experienced this again in the last few years, I would say. And the last time I experienced this was with panic attacks, and that was the biggest warning sign I've seen so far. Yeah. Yeah, I think there's so many ways to do this, and everybody can find the ways that work for him.
And I think talking about these things and sharing is so important, because there's so many things that when you start talking about them, you will always think, oh yeah, oh, I enjoy that too, I do that too, oh yeah, I could try that again, and there's so much.
Yeah, and to bring this movie up again, the Soul movie. For me, I think the nicest message is that the purpose of life is not the things that we really enjoy doing. It's the feeling we get while doing them. It's this feeling of wonder and awe and curiosity and lightheartedness. And one really nice message of this movie is that we can experience this all the time. Like the character in the movies experiences when he sits under a tree and the sun is shining through the tree, and he just looks up and is amazed for a few seconds how beautiful this tree looks. And I think that's learning more about this and training myself to go there quickly was one of the best things I've done so far, for sure. And it's also okay if it's not happening for a day or two or longer time. I think accepting this it's part of the journey, and I think especially when you're an artist who really wants to be an artist and really wants to do that, it's easy to get caught up into always fetching these things.
Yeah.
I recently read a metaphor that I really liked, and it was like, it's like doing this is like taking a big piece of wood or like a bone and attaching your happiness to it, and then you throw it as far as you can. Yep. And then you try to play seek and fetch. And when you get the bone, you do the same thing again. And then some people are doing this for their whole lives.
Yep.
And I've done this for sure for a long time. So I know it from experience. And I was wondering, what do you think? What are like some common like struggles for musicians or for artists?
Yeah, I think coming from what you just said about focusing on one thing, putting one thing in one basket in a way, so we know the things we know what works, and quite a lot of times we are fucked if they don't, and that is happening. I think we all are used to things working in a certain way and have our supports for that, and then life happens. And I think it is about not only having one way to deal with things, so not having one method of dropping into yourself. I have to be on the mountaintop with incense and great music playing in the background, but yeah, being able to get there in different ways. I think that is important. I think also self-exploration. So self always has also a social component.
Mm-hmm.
So as an artist, your idea of self will be influenced on how others perceive you.
Yeah.
By how others perceive you. And obviously you are aware that this is only part of the story. And I think being able to stay connected with that, allow yourself to say break state, so go from that which will be connected to your performer self to something else. A friend of mine, a painter, he really struggles with the art world, with the selling yourself, with the chit chat component of it, and his life got much better when he got a dog, which is the best dog in the world. I absolutely love that dog, but he takes the dog everywhere. So in every situation, he is bringing something which will sometimes literally drag him out of a situation that if he stays with it too long, he finds exhausting and challenging. And that way he has to go out of that state all the time because it needs to be walked or is chewing on some art or something like that. And I think that is something great. Obviously, you can't bring a dog everywhere, but create a system of things that allow you to bring in other parts of you, bring in more of you that will relieve pressure, performance pressure, that will make it just easier for you to bring more than what you think is expected. And yeah.
That's also again about embracing this many facets of life and of yourself.
Yeah, if
Also probably making your art more rich because you have more things to talk about or like more stories to tell. And that's something I always loved. It's a quote by Quincy Jones, and he said, "Your art will never be more or less than you are as a human being."
Yep. Yeah, and if you limit yourself to what you think people want, you stop being connected to the artist, to the creative process. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, I experienced this with a few producers that they tend to think a lot about what the next big thing is or what will reach the masses, and then they say, okay, I think this element has a lot of personality, but I leave it out because without this it's more capable to reach the masses or like to reach more people. I thought it's a little bit sad even to restrict yourself like this. For me personally.
For me personally as well, obviously not trying to judge. It wouldn't work for me.
Yeah, that's the best way to put it, for sure. Nice. And I was wondering, when you work with clients, how do you use music a lot?
I use sound, not music, unless it is something. So I think we all have experiences where we drop into ourselves, and as a therapist, you should use them. I'm not going to spend time building up great hypnotic induction on someone who is capable of dropping into themselves very efficiently in a different way. So I will always ask people, how do you do that? And everyone has some idea, and some of them might not be practical for that kind of work, but you take it from there. So obviously there's plenty of people who will have music as a way, as a resource already, and then it's always if there's people who have a power song or a relaxed song, and great. Yeah.
And you said you tend to use more sound than music. What's the difference between sound and music?
Sound is no melody, It's much simpler. It's much rawer
Yeah.
than music.
So like a singing bowl or like a gong that just has one.
Yeah. So it depends on what you want to do. So for most things, uh, in combination with other work, it will be more about just simple, maybe one bowl or something where the sound of a bowl being quite complex, so you can even if you don't have the words for it, your brain automatically will follow the way overtones develop, a sound fades and changes, even if none of that is happening consciousness for you, and even if you say, "Ooh, I don't hear that," you do. So your brain is quite absorbed by a sound like that. Yeah, that is a great start, and it's a mixture of keeping the brain busy and confusing the brain. A big part is already um, being open to the ridiculous idea that something like sound will have a positive effect on you. I think a big part is I'm open and curious about what will happen if I allow myself to experience this. Yeah.
Beautiful. And I really like that you said that there are like many different ways for people to drop out of their thinkings, and that there's no right or wrong way, and that everybody can explore the things that are bringing him home the most reliable and quickest in this moment or in this state of life. Can also develop over time, I think, or change. Nice. And earlier on, I asked you what advice you would give to somebody who wants to explore this more, or who wants to improve his mental health. And is there any advice you think he or she should ignore?
Ooh, that's a very good and loaded question. Um, yeah. Um, I, I think spirituality is a big part of this. Spirituality can be a bit of a dirty word for lots of reasons. So, um, plenty of us, and even more in previous generations, have had their experience with religion, which in a way is connected to spirituality, and not only positive aspects of it. If we look at what happened in Washington recently,
Mm.
the most shared picture, uh, the guy with the horns, is a highly spiritual being. It's his connection to the spiritual that is telling him to do what he's doing. So also their spirituality is a bit of an issue. Um, I would be very careful with um, anything that has spirituality written on their banners, but that spirituality is focused on exclusion.
Maybe 1 second, we just have like some alarms going by. And I think that might be difficult to understand. It's Berlin. So you said spirituality that is focused on exclusion.
Yeah. So if spirituality, if it is not all embracing, I think that is super, super dangerous, because quite quickly you will be connected to something which will tell you, oh, you are special. And yes, but we all are. So if something tells you you are more special than somebody else based on silly facts like if you eat meat or not, if you follow the writings of only this person religiously. I think that is the main warning. That's something that I find quite worrying, how people can go astray. Spirituality is a slippery slope. I think it's super helpful. It's an amazing resource, but you need to be careful who you are mixing and mingling with, and also the other super important point is don't go down the rabbit hole of reading more and more and more and finding another teacher and another course and doing this and that without giving yourself the time to let things sink in and to actually practice them.
Yeah.
That is, I think, the two main advices. And I got super ranty.
I think that's very beautiful. And yeah, practicing.
Yeah.
It's like playing an instrument.
Yeah.
So practice it every day, and over time magic happens.
Finding the joy in it.
In practicing and like in finding the joy in the process.
Yeah.
100%. And it's true for producing music as well. I think like finding the joy in the process and not only in the results, or like in the results you are aspiring. Nice. And when people want to find out more about your work, how can they do that?
I have a website called Transwork, that's TRANCE work.org. I have not updated in a while, as I'm at the moment transitioning to a new name and a new platform that will be befitting what it is exactly that I do better. So soon it will be resonant.me. And yeah, I'm on Instagram, the usual, Facebook, all of that.
Instagram is Prosumer, right?
That's more personal. So the therapist work, that's Transwork Edinburgh.
Okay, I will put the links to everything in the places you will the links where the links are depending on the platform. And if you want to get in touch, do that.
I want to hear your hot tips for What not to do.
My hot tips, what not to do. Don't buy into the belief that there's only one right way to do things, and that you are wrong if you don't do this way.
Yep.
There's not only one right way to do things. And I can give you an example. When I started out with coaching, obviously one big question was also, okay, how do I get in contact with people who want to work with me? How do I create clients? And I was very inexperienced back then, and found somebody who teaches how to do this with online marketing. And I thought this is the only way to do this. And this way was very much about hard selling and like using manipulation to force people into contracts, which is awful. And I thought it's the only way to do this. And that's why I did it for a while, until the point where I realized this is really not what I want to do. And all of a sudden I found so many different ways. And ways where it's not about forcing somebody, but inviting somebody in and leaving it completely up to him if he wants to do it or not. It's very gentle. And so that's hot tip number one. Don't think there's only one way. There are a lot of ways, and you can find a way that it's like aligned with yourself or with you.
Totally agree. Yeah.
Hot tip number two. Try out different things, let it sink in, and see what works for you. Yep. Kind of similar to the first hot tip. What I want to emphasize is that just because society tells you this is the right way, it doesn't mean it is. Just because somebody has a doctor degree in psychology doesn't mean that it's the right person to help you and that everything he says is the truth or like beneficial for you. So that's like hot tip number two, what not to do. Anything else? Yeah. Don't buy into this idea that the only way to solve things is to push harder. Or when it's not working, just push harder. If you're not getting the results in the studio, just spend 10 hours more in the studio every day.
Yep.
And from my own experience, this is the fast way, the highway to burnout and to frustration.
Yep.
So very counterintuitive, but like slow down to speed up.
Yep.
So give yourself time to slow down, create this time, and don't believe into the myth that hard work is the only way to achieve what you want to achieve. It's a part of it, but a big part is also the opposite, like hard relaxing, hard chilling, so to speak. And don't put so much pressure on yourself to reach everything in the time that you thought you can reach it or like get to. And I would say that these are my hot tips for now. I'm sure I will find a lot of more things that I often hear and where I think that something I would ignore from my knowledge that I have today. And on the same hand, I deeply believe that everybody is having the experiences that they need to have to develop and to grow. And for example, working with this online marketing coach and his kind of brutal and manipulative methods was really important for me, because now I know that it's not the way I want to do it. So in the long run, it was a good experience too. Awesome. And I think that's a great way to end our interview. And as I said, I put all the links for the listeners and viewers to find you, Achim, and also to find me, and to find more of these interviews that will be recorded in the future.